Hi everyone, this is Genevieve Townsend. Welcome to People in Place-Embroidery. So if you signed up for an embroidery kit, you would have received an envelope with a little embroidery hoop, needle, embroidery floss, and you would have also received a paper template of your design and the fabric to embroider. Yeah, if you got this and you're kind of wondering what this all means and which way is up, if you look on the back of your piece, it will usually have a name and a number, and that would be the top of your image. Because some of these images, because they are, it is a bit of a map representation, you could almost tip it in any direction. But if you're wondering what the upside is, the number is at the top. As well, your fabric template as well has a number in the upper corner, or most of them do. So like most things, it was a bit of a learning curve setting up the design and getting these kits ready for you. So if you had signed up for a complicated embroidery kit and were one of the first kits I put together, you might have received actually just the fabric itself, and I left you to trace out your own design. And then subsequently I realized it was probably a little simpler if I set all of that up for you. So most of you will get a piece of fabric that has your design already marked on it, and if not, it's actually really simple. You probably already know this, but I'll just say it. It's really easy. What I did is I just used a bright window, like a bright day. I taped my paper image to it, and then I taped my fabric piece and lined up the edges. There's a little white line that runs around your image. That's your 8x10. And I just lined up the corners and used a fine tipped marker to trace out my design. Now, just to give you some tips on the images themselves. So if you're wondering, the white space is the landscape. So the white is the trees, the farmer's fields, all of that kind of greenscape of our landscape. And then these are actually our lakes and rivers and bodies of water. The thicker red lines and the thinner red lines are our highways and roads. And then if you've got a little dot on your image, these are actually our towns. So what we actually decided is, though, a good aspect of this overall piece is a bit of a map of our area. We're not actually going to be writing any words on the actual piece. Like most maps, there's going to be a legend book that will also be a textile piece, and that will actually have our name, the names of our towns and cities, and a little bit more information about the communities and the people that live there. As well, these very simple leaf outlines are part of the overall image. So there's actually a tree on the right side that has red and orange leaves that fall this way across the overall image. And on the other side, we have trees as well that are dropping light gold and light green leaves from the other side, and they kind of intersperse throughout the whole image. So if you have a piece that has these very simple leaf outlines, that's what those are. You can go much more complicated if you like. You could do ribbing. You could do more of a distinctive shape for these if you like. We really were just trying to create something that had an overall appeal and story, but also allow all of you to also have a lot of space to be creative. So if you've got a piece of fabric like this, you'll see I've traced out all these like the little rivers, and, well, I guess these are not rivers, but little lakes and stuff like that. I just started embroidering, and so there's not a lot on here. But how you approach this is really up to you. I feel like part of the fun is going to be able to see what everyone brings to the table, all our different ways of approaching any given creative space. For myself, I just started this, but I wanted to do some little ribs on the leaf as well, and I would probably fill in the back of the leaf with a lighter red or an orange. As well, because of COVID, coming up with supplies and sourcing supplies did prove to be a bit challenging, and so we've come up with some different greens that are for the main body of the piece. But if you actually want to work on a different type of fabric and you've got something that's also pleasant green, feel free to use that as well. Yeah, I'm not going to go into details for actual stitching techniques for embroidery, because I do feel that if we, if you have the opportunity to go to the library, or if you have the ability to go online, there are actually so many really wonderful resources for that, and probably a lot more information and more informative than I am. I'm very novice when it comes to embroidery. I think I got my first embroidery kit for Christmas maybe when I was 12, and I've played with that for different projects over the years. I'm by no means a master at that. I tend to use very simple stitchery and then just really use color and shape to make things kind of interesting and fun. But again, I think the resources online are wonderful. I find when I've Googled, if you Google embroidery, or like there's a number of YouTube and Instagram textile artists that are just incredible. I noticed there were some really, really interesting topographical embroidery work that some artists are doing on Instagram. And it was very much like if you think about looking at our landscape from a plane, you would see that patchwork quilt kind of idea. And this artist has actually managed to, she does all of that kind of patchworking landscape in embroidery, and using most of the time very simple straight stitches. So again, just using color and shape to create her piece. And again, just to reiterate, each of your pieces, your 8x10, connects to another collaborator's piece. So when you see a row that comes to the edge and comes off, this is actually going to flow into another maker's piece. So it's kind of important to stay as accurate as possible for anything that touches an edge. Other than that, within the space, you can really be creative. You do not have to mark out every single piece of water. If that's something you find tedious, you can really be more creative with that if you like. We really just want you to have some fun, especially during this winter. I think we're a bit more isolated, but hopefully we have the ability to share our ideas, share what we're creating, and yeah, just have fun together while really we're kind of apart. Anyways, so if you've never done embroidery before, embroidery floss is made up of about 6 strands of thread, and most of the time, unless you want a really kind of thicker look to your embroidery, we usually take about 2 strands or 3 strands at a time and thread that. So often I just cut a fairly short piece, nothing too long where it gets tangled, and you can actually just peel these apart. And so you can use 1 thread, 2 thread, 3 thread, and that will that allows you to kind of And a little word about our embroidery hoop. So because we had to send these in the mail, we did have to get a kind of smaller hoop. So this still works. You just do, as you're working on your design and you're embroidering more, you do need to be just a little bit careful when shifting your design around, and the hoop is gonna actually press up against some of the embroidery. So generally I just go as loose as I can initially, and then just fairly gently press down. But I think it should still work pretty well for everyone. If you do have a larger hoop at home, that also might help you. Anyway, so this I obviously have done very little on this, and I really don't have the ability to do a super long video showing the whole process. I'm not that skilled, but what I'll do is once I have completed the image, I'll post that up too, just like as an example. But I really think, yes, I just hope you all have fun working on this piece. If you want to add little aspects, if you wanted to use ribbon for some of your roads or something like that, you please feel free. This is just meant to be something enjoyable, and then also have that fun and excitement of creating something that is in conjunction with others. So we're going to have this quite massive collaborative piece. I'm very excited. So thank you so much for participating. Again, if you have any questions, you please call me or email me. I'm super, super happy to answer any questions, or just if you want to talk about your piece and have some ideas, please call me. All right. Thank you so much.